Getting started with the ActiveReportsJS JavaScript Report Designer. The ActiveReportsJS Report Designer is both a standalone desktop application as well as a web designer that allows both users and developers to create, modify, and save reports. The standalone Report Designer is available for Windows, Mac, and Linux, while the Web Designer is compatible with all major web frameworks. They are available for download at grapecity.com/ActiveReportsJS/download. For this video, we will be using the standalone designer. After completing the download, extract the contents of the folder, navigate to the Designer subfolder, and run the ActiveReportsJS Designer installer. After the installation is complete, we can get started working with the designer. The designer is made up of 5 components: the report window, the toolbar, the controls toolbox, the properties panel, and the data panel. The report window is in the center of the application and allows us to select, move, and edit sections and controls of the report. It also allows us to drag and drop controls from the controls toolbox into the report. The toolbar allows you to save and load reports, create new reports, and apply some basic text formatting. The Controls toolbox contains the various controls that you can include in an ActiveReportsJS report. These range from simple text boxes and images to drill-down tables and banded lists. The Properties panel shows us the most commonly modified properties of the currently selected control, allowing report authors to customize the look of their report easily. If you want to see all properties available for a control, you can select Show Advanced Properties from the Properties Mode list in the bottom right corner of the designer. Finally, there is the Data panel. From here, we can associate data sources and data sets with our report. We can also use it to set parameters on reports so that users can select what they see when viewing the report. Before we start building the framework of the report, we'll need to add some data sources. Inside the Data panel, click the Add button next to Data Sources to bring up the data source window. Here, we can name the data source as well as link our data source to the report. We can do this by either using an API endpoint to return JSON or by loading JSON from a local file. For the first data source, we'll use a remote data source and put our API endpoint into the endpoint text box. Then just hit Save Changes to add your data source. For the second data source, we'll use local data. Change the data provider dropdown from Remote JSON to Local JSON and click the Load from File button. From here, navigate to the JSON file that you want to use. Once selected, the designer will show you a preview of your data. Click Save Changes to finish up. Now we can use the data sources that we've set up to create data sets that the controls can use to display data. Click on the plus icon next to the remote dataset we created, and the designer will bring up the dataset window. Like the data source window, we can use this to name our data set. There are also 2 other required steps before we can use the data set. First, we must pass the path to the JSON that we want to load. Second, we must set the data that we want to pull from the JSON. For this, we'll be loading all of the JSON. Finally, hit Validate so the designer can be sure it can load the data, then hit Save Changes. When creating a dataset from a local JSON data source, you are just required to pass the JSON path, but you are still required to validate the data. Now that we have data that we can use, it's time to start building the report. The first thing that we'll do is add a page header to the report. This can be done by clicking Section in the toolbar and selecting Add Header. Then we can add controls to the header. In the Controls panel, drag and drop a text box and image control into the header. For the image, you can either link to an image or embed an image directly in the report. For our example, we will embed an image into the report. For the text box, we'll simply set some text to act as the header for the page. Before we jump into the next section, we will do some quick styling updates. Next, we'll make use of the data that we've connected to the report. Drag and drop a table control into the body of the report. The table control loads with 3 rows, a header row, a body row, and a footer row. To add additional rows or columns, right-click on a cell and make your selection from the row or column options. To associate data with cells, simply hover over a cell and click on the box that appears in the cell to bring up your data sets. Then, click on the field you want to associate with that cell or column. The footer row can be used to show summations of your data. To show a simple count, select a cell in the footer row cell and select a field as if you usually associated a data field with a column. Like previously, we'll make some style updates and jump into the final section. Now that we've set up our header and control, we can preview the report to see what it will look like to users. The final element the designer touches on is parameters. Report authors can use parameters to allow users viewing the report to customize the data they're seeing. Before we add the parameters, we will add one more data set. This will be used to allow the users to filter down the data. Navigate back to the Data panel and click the Add button in the Parameters section to open up the Parameters panel. From here, we can set custom parameters allowing users to filter down the displayed data. For this, we will allow users to filter the data based on the category the products fall into. We will set the prompt to Category ID and set it as multi-value, since we want users to be able to select multiple categories. Next, we'll associate a dataset with the parameter and set the value and label fields. For this, we'll use the new dataset we created. And we'll use Category ID as the value field and Category Name as the label field. The value field is what the parameter filter is based on, while the label field is the values that are shown to the users. The last thing to do is associate this parameter with our table. Select the table element, then click the Filters button to open the Filter panel. From here, we just associate the Category ID values of the table to the Category ID values of the parameter. Now, when we preview the report, we'll be prompted to make selections of which categories we want to display in the table. The ActiveReportsJS Report Designer makes it easy for report authors to connect their data sources to the designer, incorporate various data views into their report, and bind their data to the views. To learn more about ActiveReportsJS, check out our demos at grapecity.com/ActiveReportsJS/demos.